computer. It's a practical guide to supernatural genius. Oops, one more time. One, two. It's a practical guide to supernatural genius. And won't you come inside and listen to our story? Maybe it's just like your story too. Maybe it's all things that you've been through. It's a practical guide to supernatural genius. The podcast. Welcome
That's a
to
nice tune.
Thanks, man. It was just written for this purpose, you know?
Excellent. Sounds lovely.
It was a small beginning, Chris. My guest it's Chris Koehn. That's how I say your name, Chris Koehn.
Yes, exactly.
And I just want to make sure I get that right, even though it's clearly Chris Koehn. But you just never know. Because where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Mexico City.
Okay, Mexico City. I never been
Yeah.
there. I can't wait to
I
go there.
yeah, you should come here. There's a lot of cultural scene, gastronomical scene, art, music, everything, nature. So a lot of going on here.
I know it. I've heard tell. I've been to Todos Santos a bunch, but never Mexico City. So I love Mexico though. But so you're an artist. We did a song together. I'm a little bit broken. That's what it's called, right? It came out great actually.
Indeed, it
It,
came out really, really great.
I highly recommend going and checking it out. It's really good. Where can people find that song? On Spotify and all that?
Yes, exactly. On all digital platforms, Tidal, YouTube Music, Apple Music,
Mm.
whatever digital platform of your preference.
Yeah, we should do more of that. That was good. Just send me something. I'll be happy to do it
Yeah,
again.
I'm already working on some couple of ideas.
Oh, good. But so I want to explain because you're an artist. You're very similar to me in that you're an artist, you're a painter, you're a musician, and I'm also into athletics, but not to the degree that you are. And I'm pretty obsessive about it. But you're an ultra marathoner, right?
Yes. Well, this year I did my first ultra marathon. Before that, I've done 20 marathons. And this year was my first ultra, and it was
Okay.
a mind-blowing experience.
I want to really get into that because this podcast centers around breaking through creative barriers. I'm sending chapters of my book called Practical Guide to Supernatural Genius. I've already edited that chapter I sent to you. It's already way different. But anyway, it's in
Okay.
process.
Okay.
And I sent you the chapter on not despising small beginnings. Because I thought that goes with being an ultra marathoner. Because when you start a race that most of us can't even fathom, I mean, most normal people, just even those of us that are somewhat extreme, such as myself, I mean, I'll do 2 Bikram yoga classes a day regularly when I don't have my daughter, which is absurd for most people. That's like an hour. What is that? Wait, what's an hour and a half plus an hour and a half? 3 hours.
Three
That's
hours, yeah.
3 hours of yoga. I'm a little exhausted right now, so the brain isn't working that well. But yeah, so most people couldn't fathom running that distance. But what is it like the small beginning of a race of that magnitude? Like, what's the first? And you're obviously experienced at running marathons, but what's the first sort of like 3 miles of that race, like the small beginning of that race?
Um, I believe probably the mindset of like being open to a completely new experience. Um, I wasn't sure of the time I was gonna do. I wasn't aiming for a time because ultra marathons, I think they're like a more introspective, connecting with nature journey. And compared to marathons, in on ultra marathons, time is your friend. So normally on marathons, you're like against the clock and you wanna keep
Get a
on
good
a
time.
specific of space and the the aid stations like you're drinking water while you're running and ultra marathons it's a completely different journey. You're walking sometimes, you're climbing sometimes. On the aid stations, you get to talk with the volunteers of the community and to play with dogs and get a sandwich. And so it's a completely different experience, a more introspective one because most of the time you're running by yourself, well, with nature, but by yourself. But there, you don't see runners behind or in front of you. So the first steps, it starts really dark because since it's a longer distance, you start around 5 a.m. So it's completely by night, and you're like with your spotlight on the forehead,
Hmm.
and so your visibility is very short of range. But it's also like an interesting journey to see. Like you have to be very aware of what you're stepping on because also you're not running on a pavement, so it's like completely technical journey to so you don't step on a rock or and fail or I don't know. You have to be very aware, but with a very limited sight. So it's a very interesting journey. And then after the first probably 5 miles, it starts to dim a bit, so you get to start to see the sunrise and the light changing of the sky. So the stars start to fade away, and it's a completely awakening experience in the awakening of a day. Like you're seeing, and you're starting to listen, like the birds like wake up, and so it's a very nice introspective journey.
Okay, but isn't there something? And by the way, I just tried to open a bottle of Topo Chico, and I did it with
Okay.
this knife, and that's what that big pop was, and the
It sounded nice, that pop.
and the
Ah, the
whole like
glass came
top of the
out.
glass came off.
So it's dangerous now.
So
You
now
have to.
it's the most dangerous water in the world. But it like I'm
Yeah.
thirsty, and it like looks super delicious, like,
Yeah, it
and it's
does.
like
Bubbly.
bubbling, and it's like saying, "Come on, drink me." But
Exactly.
there's definitely little shards of glass in there now. Like I cannot drink that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's an aside. So, but okay, there's something called the pain something, right? The pain kitchen or the. Do you know this phrase? What's it called? Uh, the pain. The pain cave.
The paint cave? No, I've never heard of it.
You haven't heard of that? Okay, that's I looked up. It's like something. It's a jargon ultra marathoners use, and so I mean, I would think what, and you said time is not necessarily, you're not going for like a good time necessarily on an ultra marathon, but some people must be. Like some people are running it as a competitive race to try to like break the record and all that kind of stuff, right? You just happen to not be doing it for that reason. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, probably since this was my first one, I wasn't aiming for a specific time because
Right.
I didn't know about what it's gonna be like. So probably if I would run the same race next year, I would maybe try to improve my time. But on this case, and since the race was, it was the first time they opened this reserve on the Antelope Canyon for people to run at. So we had to climb some stairs and get down with ropes. So it was a very slow ultra marathon because it had like extreme conditions of going up and inside the canyon. But normally on an ultra marathon, which doesn't like have these extreme ups and downs and stairs, you would aim probably to for a better time.
Okay, so what do you think? I mean, okay, and then what was it like then? You described the beginning and it was just sort of like beautiful. I mean, it reminds me of like when I hiked Camelback Mountain out here in Arizona, which is like a pretty common hike, but it's considered relatively difficult. And you usually go at dawn with the light thing,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
because
yeah.
especially during like Arizona hot air times, you need to go at like 4 in the morning because you want to beat the sun up and down the thing.
Okay.
And dawn comes out eventually, and it's like, oh, it's glorious. Okay, so you described the beginning of the ultra, and I was like thinking more like psychologically, I would be freaked out. You don't seem like you were freaked out. It was just glorious. But was there time in it where, like, sort of mile 70 or something, where you start hallucinating and start thinking, like, what am I doing? And I can't go on with this? Or was it just so laid back and easy that it never really got to a place where you went into like some deep psychological space of like insanity or hallucinating or drama, I guess is what I'm after.
Yeah. Probably since I was aiming for a specific time, I took it like cautiously, and I didn't get to that point of extreme physical demand. It was indeed a physical demand, but I wasn't like going like at very fast speed, so it would get into some hallucinations or so. But a funny thing happened. Normally, I, I use my watch, and I loaded like the map for security reasons. They ask you to download the GPS map, so when you get these left or right decisions, like the watch vibrates and tells you to go right and left, and so you don't get off course. But I forgot to put on off the auto stop mode. So normally when you get into a race, you turn off the auto stop, so that the time is real from the race when you stop. I don't know whether to the bathroom or to drink something. And on this race, I was talking to my wife, like probably we would do around 7 hours, 6.5 hours. So that's what we had in mind. And I never looked at my watch unless to see the directions, but never was looking like how many hours have we run so far, which probably could freak me out if I knew I had like 5 more hours to go. And then at the finish line, we finished, and I said, "Oh, we have like 6.5 hours, so it wasn't that bad." And the next day, the results come in, and it said 9.5 hours, and I was like, "What? Probably the organization did a cheap mistake or something." And what happened is, since I had the watch on auto stop, it stopped when I was climbing or going down, or when I was in the very narrow parts of the canyon. So the time stopped there. But in reality, it took us 9.5 hours to run. And if I had seen my watch probably at the half of the race and knew that I had 5 more hours to go, probably my mind would have played some tricks on me.
Mm.
But fortunately, it turned out with the autopause on a different way.
So it was 100 miles, and you don't stop and sleep or anything like that. I know there's some races where people stop and sleep.
It depends on the distance. This one was short. It was 50 miles
Oh,
because
okay,
they're like different. I think it's 50, 70, 100, and uh,
200.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's like infinite madness.
what do
But
you
on
think?
those,
Yeah.
I I think in those you can stop to sleep a while
Uh,
because it's too demanding.
so I mean, okay, so you were 9.5 hours at 50 miles. That's like two 4 hour marathons, right? Like four. My
Yeah,
math obviously
exactly.
isn't
Yeah, yeah,
great, but
yeah.
like still, I mean, that doesn't seem bad to me. Like I've never run a marathon, so I don't know. And I've talked to you about it before, and it
Yeah.
is something I'm intrigued to do. I've run like about 13 miles in New York a few times when I used to run a lot. So I would get into the half marathon range, and I think once you're there, you probably could keep going, with a little bit of sort of kooky volition. But where do you think it? Why do you think people want to run these extreme distances? Do you think it's healthy or unhealthy? And have you met like a bunch of interesting people in this exploration? Like where did it come from? In the sort of, it's one thing to want to run a marathon and run a couple marathons, but once you get into like I've run 20 marathons and now I'm running an ultra marathon, what is it about it that is expanding? Like, and this goes with small beginnings because it's like a passion that seems to be expanding for you, and I imagine you're gonna like keep pushing in this direction. You'll probably want to do a 100-mile one now, right?
Yeah, probably, or yeah, exactly, start growing. Um, I think it's like as on like you're always aiming to get new experiences, and in this case I believe ultra marathons have a more mindful approach rather than the race on the marathons. This is like a more of a meditation in motion, like connecting with yourself, with your demons, with nature, and disconnecting from all the people, from all the media, from everything. So it takes you almost like a full day to get to this experience. And and I believe like what is happening right now with marathons, with all the running boom, is like they're getting too crowded. Like it's almost part of the same social media and fashion traction, and
Right.
this ultra marathon is like going the opposite way.
I
Like
see.
I don't care about the medals, I don't care about the outfit, about the selfish. Everybody's like going into themselves to connect with themselves and
Well,
on a more of a community way.
that's what Bikram yoga is a lot like. I mean, it's because
Exactly.
it's a meditation. It's a physical meditation. You're supposed to breathe, for a count of six in and a count of six out,
Mhm.
the whole entire practice. And when you do that, aligned with those postures in the hot room, it you can't help but be present, and sort of go to a different place that, on the surface seems like why would anyone voluntarily do this? It's painful on some level or, uncomfortable. But it actually like yeah, it calms something in your head or something. I'm assuming you don't take like headphones or anything. It's just you and
Yeah,
your
just you and
thoughts.
your head and the sound of nature. Exactly.
Does anyone wear headphones or are headphones frowned upon?
Um, on marathons, a lot of people use headphones, but on ultra marathons, it's another sport. So nobody's like with headphones, and everybody's like connecting with themselves and listening to nature. And
Okay, and so when you're doing that, what is that like inside of you? Like, are you talking to God? Is it a mantra? Like, is it none of those things? I mean, are you taming your mind? Are you mastering your mind? Is this a form of mastering your mind?
um, probably most of the time, I'm like working on my breath work, like trying to get
Mm-hmm.
into, not trying, but if you focus on like the inhalation and the exhalation, you get to a point where you forget about it and you get into that zone when you're just flowing with the synchronicity of your steps and the breath. And that's a very nice zone to be on. And that at that moment, you're not thinking about anything. You're just like fully present in awareness, appreciating every stone, every tree, every bird, every cloud. You're like very, very ultra sharp on all your senses.
And do genius ideas come to you in those moments? I mean, I find that when I'm doing breath work and presence work and meditation work and yoga and stuff like that, that is when like what I think of like whispering genius happens, like revelation, little revelations. They're not really so thought based. It's more just like boom, and then it's like, "Oh, that's a good idea." Does that happen?
Yes, yeah, this happens. I'm not probably on this ultra marathon, and not so much. Maybe a tune comes up, but I also this year I started doing the transcendental meditation, like all the David Lynch movement and
Mm-hmm. You got a mantra.
exactly.
You're
I
not
got a
supposed to say
mantra.
what it is.
Yeah, I always say it out loud because I forget it, but um,
You're not supposed to tell anyone. I actually got my mantra in transcendental meditation when I was like 16 years old in in Akron, Ohio, of all
okay.
places. And I still remember it. I don't really
Yeah.
use it to meditate, but I meditate. I just use I am or Om, or I use Ho'oponopono, or
Okay.
or I just focus up here on a more of a sensory vibe, even without a
Okay.
mantra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably on those moments when I'm at the transcendental meditations, like a lot of ideas start flowing, like clearing my mind on, I have to do this, or maybe I can do that on my painting project or my music project or whatever. And also, like when I'm making music, like I try to lose myself of my ego, like I am the one trying to compose some lyrics, but rather than capturing like the words of the universe, and maybe that's the way it's like I try to think more of like as a medium than as a composer. So I'm just like capturing the ideas from the universe and downloading to them into paper or notes.
So when you think of a concept like I come at you with this chapter, like don't despise small beginnings, does that resonate with you? I mean, it's like something like I see you do lots of different creative projects, and creative projects for me always start with like, uh-oh, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It seems really hard. It's like there's lots to do. I don't even know what I would do. Even when I go play a show, even though I've been touring for 30 years, I still sometimes think like, what am I gonna do? It's just these people are gonna be bored, like, or what, like the mind will mess with you. Does that resonate with you? Do you have those same kind of? I think of them as demons or principalities of darkness that discourage you. And does it help you to remember not to despise small beginnings?
I completely agree. It happens the same with me, and probably like the way I like to try to approach it is like to do the first step and step into that vulnerability of not knowing, because
Mm-hmm.
like as we grow older, we start like getting some knowledge around the things we do and our professions, and stepping out of our comfort zones to do something new is always something really scary, and we don't want to do it. And as you say, what people will think of me, am I gonna entertain them, or but I believe like the most important thing is to do that first step and to start like losing yourself and failing, because it's when you keep failing like you start learning, and then you get some knowledge, and then you're some at some point you're getting good at it. And to make it happen, I did my first painting exhibition about a month ago, which I started painting about 3 years ago. And a friend of mine was there at the exhibition, and he said like, congratulations on the paintings, but more congratulations on taking that step to do it, because we always like have great
Mm-hmm.
ideas and we want to do this and we want to do that, but like to implement and get down to earth with that idea and expose yourself to being criticized, because there are always people who will criticize no matter what you do, and to be open to that um emotional state is like very freeing once you take like the first step to take that action.
You're gonna get even, and then if you don't do anything, you're gonna get criticized. Or if you just like
Exactly.
in my case, if I just stuck with like writing songs and being a songwriter, oh well, he didn't really change. He just did that same thing he was doing the whole time. No matter what you do. So
Exactly.
it's cool that your friend uh, gave you that encouragement and that compliment. And it's really true. More impressive. It's honestly true. That's like what I think about too. Is more impressive than whether or not your paintings were like amazing masterpieces or not, or whatever. It's just watching a human being take bold action impresses us more than whether or not you're a great painter or not, or who knows. But like, because I didn't know until just now that you had only started painting 3 years ago. I was looking at your Instagram recently, and I forget, maybe because to invite you on the pod or whatever. But I was looking at it and looking through your thing, and I saw that you had this art show. I was like, oh yeah, he paints too, and that's how it went in my head. Was like, oh, he's like me, he paints too. It wasn't like, oh, he's starting to paint, like he's starting to paint now. That's not how it lands on people that have like their own thing going on. The way it lands is, oh, he paints too. That's cool. He's got a show. Like you just, for all I knew, you've been painting for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, I don't know. So yeah, we imagine all this other stuff about what the reaction is going to be like, or all this other thing, and really, by and large, the only people that would ever give you a negative reaction to that at all are people that are just stuck themselves and are not allowing
Exactly.
themselves to like to do that. That will threaten them. But everyone else who's either a just like busy in their own trying to get over their own things will take a glance over at what you're doing and go, oh cool, he does that. You'll never gonna get a negative word, and a person might not like your paintings or not, but if they're a person that's in the flow of their own creative spirit, they won't care whether they like your paintings or not, and that'll be irrelevant, because it's like, so what? Art is always subjective. Some you like some things, you don't like other things. Like, I mean, I'm just putting together a new album in the running order and thinking of things like that. It's like, it's subjective. There's no
It,
perfect opening song. Like the one we chose doesn't really have like drums come in, and it's a real pretty song, but I'm like thinking like, oh, I probably should have opened it with something that like bigger beat or something, you know? Like, and then it's like, well, that's subjective too. Like you just don't know. Anyway,
exactly. And the mind never stops. It's
right.
always like you finish a song or a painting, and then it's like, I think I should have done this or should have done that. And but always like keeping the making. Like for example, with my paintings, I about in 2018, I started doing these single line drawings with my eye closed. I went to a
Yeah, I
museum
saw
in
that
New
it was
York.
minimal. I was like, oh, he's a minimalist. I saw that it was quite minimal.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
one, the first one I painted that 22 years ago when my brother passed away. And that year I painted a lot. And I even forgot about it. So
Mm.
I was talking to an art curator showing her like all these single line drawings, which I draw with my eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
And I show her this picture of the minimal painting, and she said, "Okay, the single line drawings are really interesting, but I think you should explore doing a series of this minimal stillness painting." And that's how I started like painting again on this style 20 years later. So it wasn't, but it
Mm.
was like, okay, here I'm starting again on this vulnerability process. And what are people, well, the first thing is that I was painting for me, because I believe like when you're doing something like you can hang on your house and you love the painting, that's like the best result. And whether afterwards someone buys it or loves it, that's okay, because we have to create for ourselves.
Dude, the result is what, not even, I mean, I agree with you on some level, but on another level, it's like not even necessarily whether you like it or not. It's the fact that you're trying and you're waking
Mm,
up with a sense of purpose.
completely.
And, because I think like it's interesting. I was listening to Woody Allen was getting interviewed by, I think, Bill Maher.
Okay.
He was talking about his films, or it might have been Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin, I think my wife just listened to that and told me
Okay,
it
I
was
think it was
amazing.
that. Yeah, and he was talking about how, like, when he starts a film, he has all these ideas about how it's going to be this like epic genius thing, and he's got the whole thing worked out. And by the end of it, by the last stages of editing it, he's just desperately trying to cobble something together that's halfway decent, like, and saving himself from infinite embarrassment. And I just love that because it's like, obviously the guy's made some pretty epic films, some
Indeed.
great films, you know. But in his mind, they're just like, it's just so good to like see someone who's achieved something like that artistically, and then describe the internal process of like somebody just like by hook or by crook trying to desperately make anything happen at the end, like with voiceovers and stuff like that, you know. And that's, I don't know, that's what I like the most, is when you're creatively on that sort of razor's edge, when you're like, and you're sort of swept up in the process of making something. I don't know, that's like, there's nothing really better than when you have that sort of sense of purpose. You can't wake up to, or you can't wait to get up the next morning to start again, to have fresh energy to like go in on this project you're excited about. And yeah, you need to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. You can't just like, you know, I can't just do it in the realm of making records my whole life. I have to expand to other things. It's just, I want to
Exactly.
you get called to expand to other things, you know.
Yes, and that moment of uncertainty and exploring and becoming a kid again, like learning a new way to create something, it's like your brain is like rewiring, and your soul is rewiring on that level. For this art exhibition, for example, the this art curator was telling me, since I had a musical background, I should explore like creating some soundscapes. And I was like, okay, it sounds great, but how do I create a soundscape? So I started doing a lot of research and watching YouTube videos and how to create and connect some synthesizers. And then I said like, no, let's go back to the most basic, which is like my main instrument, which is the guitar. And then I started playing some loops with atmospherical swirls and vibes. And then I slowed everything down so it had a very like a swirl wave movement. And while you were watching the paintings, I did this live performance, and people were like calm and watching the all the paintings and feeling the vibe of the music. And I was like, okay, now I'm creating a soundscape which I've never done before. So it was also like getting into out of my comfort zone to create something new, which was really nice.
And there's a perfect example of the fact that once you go in towards the muse and you sort of confront the muse on a different level, and then you get feedback from that confrontation, which leads you to other confrontations or other forms of creation. It's expanding, and you could never like have formulated your first thought about what, maybe doing an art show or an exhibit, to like what it actually became and how it sort of blossomed into this whole birth, and who knows where it's going to go from here.
Exactly. That's the interesting part. Like now that like the seed has been planted, and now let's see what happens, and always to keep exploring some new ideas.
Okay, so let's talk about the dark side of the whole thing too. Let's talk about, because you're in a moment of sort of victory over the forces of resistance, you could say. Obviously, you know, but how many times or how often are you stuck in the opposite way of what we've been talking about? I know for me, it's been a lot in my life. Like a lot of times people think, oh, you're endlessly creative. You write so many songs, or this, that, and the other thing. And it's true. I've written a lot of stuff and I've been really creative. But at the same time, the opposite has been true for me as well. There have been wasted years and months and months and months of just stuckness, of not living up to my potential, of starting something and then a few weeks later stopping it and not starting it again for two something years or something like this, and then having that like drone on in my head torturing me, like, oh, but you failed on that, you didn't do that, did you? And like, explain that. How often does that happen to you, and how do you get past it?
Yeah, it happens as well, and I think I get past it by creating more, whether it's good or not. Like for example, now that I've let's say from this peak of this exhibition, it's like what am I gonna show next? And if I can get it to this level, because I feel like satisfied creatively on the results of the paintings, and but I believe like the making without judgment, like just start creating and taking action for whatever comes next, and being open to uh, the results of keeping painting on a different technique, or
Yeah, but all that
explore.
still sounds healthy. Like that's all good still. Like even if you like have doubt, but you're still creating, then you're not where I'm talking about. I'm talking about artistic dark night of the soul, where you're like you maybe you fall into. Do you ever fall into real darkness, like where you're not creating anymore, or you get into addictive behavior or behavior that is maybe beneath your ideals, or do you just not have those sort of self-destructive things going on?
No, I don't think I have those.
Lucky you, dude.
Yeah, because probably I could have them if I would wasn't making anything. But I think what keeps me going is like I need to make, to write, to create a design. To If I'm not making, probably I would be like my head would be spiraling downwards
Right, right.
on this. But the fact of creating something, whether I like it or not, because a lot of times happens I create something and I'm not like completely satisfied with it, but the fact that I'm keeping that synergy or momentum to create, that keeps me like floating from going
Yeah.
underwater, and because not making, that would probably go into my darkest parts.
So, what do you like? Do you have a sort of daily schedule that you stick to, a discipline? Do you like get up early and do meditation first thing and then go on a run? I mean, do you have a quite a regimented, disciplined life to maintain that?
Yes, but I'm very, very disciplined. There's this amazing book by Ryan Holiday called
Stoic.
"Discipline is Destiny,"
Okay.
and he talks about discipline like being the way to be free,
Yeah.
because we always or sometimes we have this connotation of discipline has a like a negative connotation, like, oh man, I won't
Rigid.
watch this show or go out with my friends or whatever because I have to do this, like the fact of discipline. But the more disciplined you are with yourself, the more you're doing what you love most. So
Mm-hmm.
in my case, I wake up and I do like 40 minutes of meditation. Then I go out and do my, whether it's running, yoga, or Pilates, or depending on the day. Like I do one day running and one day yoga. And then during the day, I normally work on my design projects and the architecture thing. And at afternoons around 6 p.m., I do another 20-minute transcendental meditation.
Meditation. Yeah.
And then afterwards, I grab my guitar or I grab my pencil to start painting. But I always like do this space. There's this amazing book also before the creative act of Rick Rubin. This was this The War on Art,
Yeah.
which
Stephen
says.
Pressfield.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
like you have to come, you have a gift, so you have to take that space to create and share that gift, because there's always going to be distractions of family, friends, the
Mm-hmm.
new movie, the whatever um, uh, distractions in a way. So if I always give myself like around an hour and a half, 2 hours, or 3 hours, depending on the flow, to either paint or play music. Maybe sometimes I'm playing covers, or
Mm.
maybe sometimes I'm playing my music, or sometimes this year, for example, at the beginning of the year, I was on a breathwork session with a friend, and she started singing and playing this harmonium, and I was like, wow, she sang amazing. And then after the meditation, I came to my home and grabbed my guitar, and then like a mantra meditation song started flowing, and then we recorded this healing song, which has a very nice vibe. But if I hadn't gotten into that 2 hour space to see what happens, it wouldn't have happened. So I always take like from 1 hour to 3 hours daily, afternoon nights to create either art or music, and
Well,
that gets me like going under.
but you didn't start life that way, right? I mean, you didn't like go from
No,
like being a teenager to like you weren't like a young Buddha that just knew like, hey, I need to
no,
meditate twice a day. I need to exercise every morning when I wake up, and then I'm
no.
gonna. I mean, like, because I'm living a lot like that lately. Getting up really early, working, going into the meditation yoga scene around 7 after getting up at like 4 and working for like 3 hours. And then after like a meditation yoga scene, then come home and work, eat lunch, and then work again. And then work until sort of like 5 o'clock, and then go
Yeah.
into another meditation, maybe yoga scene or maybe just meditation. And then go home and maybe try to work a little bit more and then go to sleep. and
Yes.
and that's when I don't have my daughter. Like when I have my daughter, I get up early before her, and that's a whole other. It's a different kind of schedule that involves
Yeah.
playgrounds and stuff like that. But I mean, it took me forever to arrive at that routine. It took me a long
Yes.
time, and it's not anything I've maintained consistently forever. And I feel like I need to now, and want to. I'm enjoying it. It's become my dopamine triggers are realigned towards that discipline. So now the dopamine I get is when I do get up at 4 in the morning and get a good 3 hours in before 7, before I go to the first meditation yoga thing, right?
Yes.
That's like a dopamine trigger now. So that's become addictive. So it's like it's not on the outside it would look like a crazy amount of discipline, like I'm after it's like 7, it's 8 o'clock now for me. After this, I'll go to bed like pretty soon. Like I go to bed early.
Yeah, I
And
try also to go to bed
you
early.
you have to, but it's hard for me to fathom like what were you like before you discovered that? Like that must have been an island of discovery for you, and I'm just curious like
Yes,
what
probably.
explain that journey. Like you must have been off the rails on some level,
Yeah.
whether or not you were like I'm not saying a massive drug addict or anything like that, but there must have been a period where you were like wayward and you didn't
Yes.
know how to do all that stuff.
Yeah, probably like before my brother passed away, I always we like go out Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, and we drank a lot, and I always felt like this kind of emptiness because I wasn't like doing music. And at that moment I wasn't like I hadn't even recorded that song, but I had my guitar and my three pedals, and I love playing Metallica, and I was like Ozzy Osbourne, and I was really connected to that. And then like with the friends, so you get to belong. I was like going out and like partying a lot, and but I really felt this kind of emptiness. And then I think the changing point, most important changing point, was my brother's death.
How did he
It
die?
We went out on a like 2, 3 in the morning to different clubs, and he grabbed his car and he had a car accident, and like banged into a trailer that was stopped on a line on 5 in the morning, and so.
Wow, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
Yes, thank you, Joe. And but we all were like completely drunk, driving around
Hmm.
and like acting if death could never come to us. And I think at that moment it was like uh,
But that's a
hold.
lot of us. I mean, that describes me and all my friends back in those days. Like, we were insane. We were like
Yeah,
idiots.
exactly. And
You know,
you felt
and
immortal and
you felt feel immortal, and you know, and you know, you get away with it until you don't. I guess you know.
exactly. And even afterwards, my friends kept drinking a lot, and I at that moment I was like, I was so sad and so empty that I didn't want to feel hangover. So, like, I started like drinking much less. Then
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years passed, and I started like drinking on a more sanely way. But I think that was the bridge, like
Yeah, it's interesting.
to get
That
into that zone.
yeah, that's why I was like going like, hey, what gives? Because I like that because I feel like people don't get to that place that you're at without some kind of shocking amount of pain.
Indeed.
It's
Yeah, you
wild.
have to cross
And
a lot
people
of pain.
don't do things like run ultra marathons or run 20 marathons without something extreme happening that and I'm not even like trying to paint it all dramatic
No,
like
no.
oh you're running from it or anything like that. It's not even a bad thing. I'm not judging it at all. I actually don't think it's bad. I think it's kind of great. Like I mean, if you want an extraordinary life, you have to do extraordinary things. It just like you can't just like hang out watching Netflix. Nothing much happened that pushed you over the edge.
Exactly.
Things happen to push you over the edge, and those are good things. Those do manifest the small beginnings that turn into that blossom like in like sort of artful gardens in the cosmos.
Indeed. And those small beginnings always begin with fear because they're like, where, how do I start? What are people gonna think of me? And am I gonna fail? So it's a lot of tricky minds,
Mm.
demons playing on your head. But I believe the key is to take the step and to
I
take
think
action.
we're evolving. Human consciousness, humanity's evolving to the point where I almost feel like the whole what are people going to think about me. I realize I sort of tipped that off when I said, oh, like how am I even going to perform or whatever. I'm not talking about just a wayward negative voice that goes through my head. But in general, I feel like most of us are at that place where whoever complimented you on congrats on the paintings, but even more congrats on doing something new. I think we're all there now. Like, I think just watching anyone attempt to do anything at all, like, even if it's
Completely.
terrible, what doesn't, it's like the quality of is good or bad is secondary compared to like watching someone get past this age of distraction and get past all these minefields of like of resistance. That means by the time you're watching someone do something terrible, they've gone through a psychic obstacle course that you know. If you're at all like a present awake
Yeah,
human,
yeah, yeah.
you know they've gone through like a David Goggins level obstacle course psychically to where they deserve your respect. And that's it. And then, so if it's like really good what they're doing on top of that, then that's a bonus.
Yeah,
And,
that's the bonus,
and it'll
exactly.
have to be good to some degree, I think, for it to keep going. I think that's the fuel for it to like continue for years and years and years. There probably has to be some degree of quality to it that has to arise, I would say. But the small beginning of it is enough to earn all of our respect, regardless of whether it's any good or if it's like, even if it's ridiculously bad. Actually, if it's ridiculously bad, even more respect in a weird way.
Yeah, yeah, com- completely agree. Yes, yes, completely agree.
Yeah. It's interesting. I love this subject though. I love the subject of getting over all these like creative hurdles. I mean, that's why I'm like getting to the place where I've like almost done editing my book, because that's like something I've wanted to do forever. And I finally wrote the screenplay for The Ballad of Boogie Christ, the musical. I
Ah,
wrote
wow,
I wrote
congrats.
I wrote a 3-act script for it and I finished it. Like this is
Wow.
part of this
Congrats, yo.
new mode I've been on, you know. And actually, the self-help book came from when I finished that. I was like, "Oh no, I'm finished with this draft. I
Now
need to
what?
keep. I need." It was totally now what I was like. I know I love this thing of getting up and basically writing for a couple hours. Like I was like, I don't want to stop that. That's too. That's my like comfort zone. And so I was like, well, there's that self-help book you've been working on. Why don't you just start editing that and working on that? And I like seamlessly just I didn't even miss a day. I just went right into that. And now that's almost done. It's
That's
like
great to hear, Joe.
it's fun, dude. And then there's like I'm talking to like I sent it out to the guy that published my first book of poetry, Mark in Chicago, and then he brought in a director and we just got on a conference call about putting out like doing a couple like reading performances of the Ballad of Boogie Christ the musical. It's like a one
Mm.
man show.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah. But there's an example of what we're talking about. Like it's like
The first step,
the small beginning
the small
and then
beginning.
you're like, oh, let me send it to this guy, let me send it to this guy, let me get feedback, and you get a couple feedbacks, and you like next thing you know somebody's like, hey, I got this theater we could do it at, and you're like, really? And then you start watching it come into fruition and you're like, wow, that's crazy.
Indeed. It
You know.
sounds amazing. Wow, that's congrats, Joe. I always have this spine of writing something. Now you have sparked something inside
Do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a great thing to do, especially early in the morning. I'll say this about writing for me, and it's weird because back when I first started making records, it was I was much more of a night person when I was younger, and so recording sessions, especially ones like in my friends' studios or in my home studio, would go till like 3 or 4 in the morning often. And then you go to sleep at dawn and wake up at noon and, have
Okay.
breakfast, coffee, maybe a joint, and then go back
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
studio and do it all again. And it would just be constant work. So, in a weird way, even though it was like this rock and roll lifestyle, it worked for that time and for music. I made a lot of really good records in that mode. And I mean, in New Orleans, it was ridiculous because I made some records in New Orleans and it would be like, we would stop working at around like 1 or 2 in the morning and then go out because bars
Wow.
were open 24. It was open 24/7. So we would go out and then stay out till dawn and then go home and sleep and then
And
wake
next
up
day
at
the
like
same.
3 or
Tw-
3 o'clock and start recording then. And but you would record so much, you would still be getting a lot done. That's why I made Our Shadows Will Remain like that. Like,
Mm.
I made good records like that. Like, there was fun records. And you would go out, and too, like, creative work is different because you'd go out, and all of a sudden in New Orleans, all these crazy dive bars, they had the best jukeboxes ever. People would,
Mm.
and you'd be like listening to those music, and you be there
You're
like with the
absorbing.
people you're working absorbing. You're like, hey, we should do something like this on that track, you know what I mean? Even though you're like supposedly in bad behavior, which you kind of are, but also it worked for rock and
It
roll
works.
at that time. But I
Yes,
mean,
indeed.
this is all a roundabout way of saying like, but now I find like the writing thing really around like especially like even if you can get up at 3:30 in the morning or 4, like perversely early. I find that and like get up, have a green tea. I've been drinking green tea lately instead of
Okay.
coffee, and then just like start writing. You're in the middle of the night essentially. No one's gonna text you or bother you at all. You have a complete like window of like 3, probably 4 hours of just like you can just sit there and focus, and your subconscious is super activated at that point. Like and I
Yeah,
find, dude, you can sit there and write and you'll look at the clock and an hour has passed and it'll be like this. And you'll have
mm,
like been really in the zone writing a lot of things. Then maybe you'll take a break, you'll let yourself doom scroll for a second, and then you go right back into it and you're like, nope. And then you're like, And dude, you can like you get in the habit of that as your daily thing, and then you go, and then I go meditate and do the yoga. And so by the
Mm.
time I go do any, and that's an early morning meditation yoga. I get up, I go to the cold plunge place at 7 a.m. and by then I've already worked 3 or 4 hours.
Wow.
So it's like, and you feel like, so it's just like you're flipping the day
Yeah,
in
exactly.
these absurd times. But I gotta say,
Mhm.
if you want to write something, or I recommend
Early
early in the
morning.
morning. Early morning, it's really interesting before
And
meditation and working out
and do you write on the computer or on a
on
typewriter?
my phone.
On your phone?
I write on my
Okay.
phone, dude. I know it's
Okay.
but you know, whatever. It's I just type with my thumbs and I write like that, and yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
whatever
really I
works.
don't type like this. I type like
Okay.
this.
Okay,
I got
okay.
fast thumbs.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So go for it. Well, what? So, all right. Well, let's wrap it up. What do you think? What's next for you then?
Well, musically, there's three parts. Like one is my the new album where the our song "I'm a Little Broken,"
Okay.
and I'm working on a couple of new songs for that album. Then there's the like the Healing Songs project, which also is like another album
I
which
want to
I'm
do that
working on.
too, man. I've been talking to Donna DeLeroy about that.
It's an interesting and a nice
Dude,
wow, exactly, yeah,
this
like a
harmonium's
harmonium.
tuned to 432 as well.
Okay, wow, okay, you should go for it, Joe.
Yeah. Well, maybe we do one together. Do
Yeah, of
a
course.
mantra thing, you know?
Love the idea. And
But
then I'm also doing like a naked cover album, like paying homage to artists I admire doing these down-tempo, acoustic,
uh-huh.
melancholic, sad versions. I already released a couple of songs, and I will be releasing one in 2 weeks for Ozzy Osbourne, which was a huge influence on me as as a
Which
teenager.
one did you do?
Mom, I'm coming home.
Oh, good. I love that song.
I will send it to you. It's a very nice version with the synthesizers and the theremin and the acoustic guitar. And so those are like musically, those are the three projects I'm working on. And regarding the paintings, I'm like having this idea of exposing all these single line sketches I've been doing since 2018. I do one every day before I go to bed. So I have like 3,000 sketches, and probably I'm thinking like framing a full wall with these. I don't know how many, but like having an exhibition with these uh, uh, sketches and maybe doing live performances and doing portraits of people sitting in front of me and getting out of my comfort zone and painting like live with them in front of me. And well, that's kind of the three projects I'm working on.
Beautiful, man. Well, tell people where to find you. Give your socials and all that.
Um, it's Instagram is my main platform where I share everything like my architecture, designs, paintings, and music. It's Chris underscore Kohn at that's it. I was giving my email. Chris underscore Kohn. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for doing the podcast. And yeah, this is episode 4. So, and I think I'm going to try to drop the first episode Friday. So
Okay.
this one will come out a few weeks from now. But
Excellent, Joe.
thanks,
Thank
man.
thank you very much
And
for
if you got,
having me.
yeah, if you have any ideas, like, do you have any, do you want to do like a lightning round of questions? Oh, nah, let's not do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Lightning round?
Right. How
Uh,
does it work?
I
Like,
don't know. Like, okay, what's the worst shoe you ever trained in?
um, probably a Nike Vomero. It was a really heavy shoe.
What's the worst aid station food you've ever had?
Um, Probably some gel. This called GU 3000 or
Oh,
something,
gel
which
or
was,
something.
yeah, like it was like a bomb to my stomach.
All right. What's one sentence you say to yourself when you feel like quitting?
Ah, that's a good question. Probably keep going. It's two words like keep going.
All right. What's the favorite thing you've ever drawn or painted?
Um, Probably the painting I did when my brother passed away. It's called By the Window at the Sea. It's a very minimal painting, like contemplating a ship and a cloud and the abstraction of it.
What's the song that's carried you through the most dark times of your life?
Um, like one of mine or a song of
Any song.
any song. Um, Probably a Pink Floyd song. Um, Maybe Wish You Were Here when my brother passed away.
Mm. And what would you say to your beginner runner self from the point of view of your 100-mile running self? Like a
That I'm proud of. I'm proud of him.
uh, and have you ever had hallucinations while running?
Yes, I did one during the Boston Marathon 2 years ago, and I got this almost heat stroke, and I felt like really confused, and I was like about to turn around and start running in the opposite direction, and I was like, no, 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 keep calm, keep breathing. I started slowing down, and I kept like on a small pace in the direction I was meant to, but I was almost about to collapse into the opposite direction.
And the last question is: do you have a sort of do you pray? Do you have a connection with God? Are you a believer in God? Is that a big important thing in your life, or not really?
Yes, since a kid, I was into God, and I was taught to pray. And since a kid, I pray like every day before going to bed. After my meditation, I pray, and it's a nice way to like to close the day.
Yeah. All right. Well, all
Thank
my
you, Joe.
love, brother. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
This was fun. It was fun to just shoot the breeze with you, man.
Indeed, I really enjoyed it.
All right, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, talk soon, Joe.
Talk soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.